Welcome to the 4th episode of Arkpedia. The original plan was to cover rerolling accounts, but I've decided to remove that entirely as an Arkpedia episode. Instead, now we get to cover a bigger, important topic that is base formations. Our focus is going to be primarily on the layout of your base, the number of trading posts, factories, and power plants that you'd place in your base. I'll start this episode off by extending points from the previous episode, account progression. In the last episode, I showed you the bases you should reach at different milestones of the game. I'd like to highlight one change in advice to that video, that is to build your office to level 1 as soon as you start the game at player account level 1. This is so that you can unlock the function to refresh your recruitments. But after that, just leave it at level 1 from that point. No upgrading. In that same episode, at level 40 to 50, I told you guys to wait for the last step for your base. So, let's get to that. The final step to your base is to build the 252 formation. Make your last empty room a factory at level 3. 2 of them will produce gold and 3 of them will produce yellow EXP. From here on, only build your training room when you're starting to give masteries. At the same time, if you can build the last floor of your base, please go ahead and do so to get your final dormitory. This dormitory will be at level 1. The office and reception room will remain at level 1. But if you don't like them at level 1, you can afford to lower the levels of your factories and give these 2 rooms the levels that you want. Note, however, that this will be at the expense of the amount of gold, EXP, or LMD that you can produce. 252 is an awesome base for new players as it cuts 500,000 LMD you would spend if you were to build 243 maxed out. At the same time, you get lots of LMD and EXP in return. For more details on the 252 base, you can read the related link I've provided in the description of the video. Otherwise, you have completed building your base and can proceed to the next episode after this. Now, this part is to answer a perpetual question of the Arknights community. What is the best base layout? This video will help you explain why it is the 252 to all of you, new and veteran players alike. There are 3 notable arrangements which are 333, 243, and 252. Let's start with 333. The 333 base is known for the same number of trading posts, factories, and power plants it has. Ironically, it is the most imbalanced base because you do not allow for EXP production. It is usually a pure LMD production, or if not, the painful random farm. Some might highlight that 333 is the best for LMD production by producing the most LMD, solving all of your LMD needs. But by leaving EXP to rot, this is obviously inefficient. If you go full force on LMD, you have essentially forced yourself the need to farm LS stages periodically whenever you run out of EXP, which this will take a lot of sanity. LS stages also need a lot more farming to offer a good amount of EXP that you can use. Especially if you're free to play with limited sanity, you would much prefer if your base can double up the production on both LMD and EXP. This way, you don't have to farm CE or LS stages as much, and instead, focus your sanity on other materials you may want. Now we go to the harder argument that is 243 versus 252. 243 is often argued as the true balance base because of the maximum power reached. 252 on the other hand is argued as the aesthetically destroying base and therefore worse. People often say that 243 is the correct way of playing the game that Hyperglyph intended for all the players in the world. If Hyperglyph intended it, why did they give me the option to build a maximum of 5 factories? Yeah, why actually? Let's dive deeper. To compare the 2 bases, let's take a look at the data reports. See these 2 reports? Can you tell which is 243 and which is 252? You've got your guesses? That's gonna be the answer shown on the screen. But how about this one? You see, the big problem with continuously using numbers to compare is that it doesn't account for a lot of differences in the way players play. How often do these guys log in? What are their operator combos? How do they rotate their operators? Do they use drones? Do they have control center operators? There are multiple factors that can affect how good a base can be, and base layout is only one of the few. It's never good to use statistics to judge a base layout because it's not isolating the other factors that can contribute to the report. Therefore, if we can't use numbers, what should we use? To answer this, let's understand some matters. Before I started making my 252 base, I've always thought that a level 2 factory can only produce blue EXP, but I was wrong. As long as you have one level 3 factory within your base, you're allowed to build yellow EXP across any level of your factories. This was one of the things that blew my mind. But later on, I figured out something even greater. If let's say a factory is level 2, that would probably mean that it produces EXP at a slower pace, right? Now, if there are no operators stationed within the factory, the thing is, both level 2 and level 3 factories will produce a yellow EXP at 3 hours. As you can see here, this is a level 3 factory, and then in the level 2 one, it is also 3 hours. So the only difference in the two factories is that number 1, the capacity is different, and number 2, the number of operators you can place is only down by 1. Even so, this was a huge thing for me to figure out that will explain to you guys why 252 is a very good base. Now let's bring this revelation into the debate. Usually 243 users will rotate their base every 24 hours, while 252 users will rotate half their base every 12 hours. We're going to compare a typical 243 player to a typical 252 player with the worst layout. That is 1 level 3 factory and 4 level 2 factories. This being what we call the max right side. Let's compare the LMD productions of the two bases with our favorite number. Stupid, stop using numbers. I told you that. The dumbest argument to execute over here is to compare the LMD productions of the two base layouts. The reason for this is that both base layouts have 2 level 3 trading posts, meaning to say you can put 2 3 operator combos each. If you're using the exact same combos in both bases, for most combos, both bases would just be producing the same amount of LMD. The LMD argument basically becomes a faulty one. You can't go comparing LMD because it's the same, and there's also no need to compare the amount of gold. Both 243 and 252 uses 2 factories for gold production. 252 has slower gold production, but it's not a big issue as it can maintain itself to support the trading posts. 243 with 2 level 3 gold factories has the tendency to produce too much gold. A lot of you probably have more than 1,000, 2,000 or even 4,000 gold right now, which is sitting in your depot doing nothing. If you fit the description, you should start turning one of your gold factories into an EXP one so that you can start to spend away all those excess gold. Go out of the way, now let's get to the juicy part, the EXP. 243 has 2 level 3 factories producing EXP. 252 has 1 level 3 and 2 level 2 factories. Wait, now this is confusing to compare, right? Does 2 level 2 equal to 1 level 3? Is it better? Is it worse? This is where we bring in that revelation I talked about. If there are no operator station inside the factories, 1 level 2 base equals to 1 level 3. This means that if a 243 is producing 200% worth of EXP, that is one factory making 100%, then 252 is making 300% worth, an additional 100%. This is the major difference that makes 252 almost always the more powerful base compared to a 243. Does this mean that a max right side 252 is always better than a 243? Considering the additional 100% worth of EXP or gold production, the 243 will need to work extra hard to compete. This means you are going to need powerful 3 operator combos that often consist of specific 5 stars or 6 stars, and worse, oftentimes at Elite 2. You will need to rotate your base at 6-hour intervals to get the best 243 outcome, and you also need to effectively use your drones all the time. In short, a 243 base almost never beats a max right side 252. If you have a non-max right side 252 however, which is what I recommended at the start of the video, it will always beat 243 and max 252. Hence, 252 is a grand efficiency winner for most players. Let's address the final few differences: trust gain, credits, and rotation management. Trust gain in 252 will be smaller specifically for control center or floor assistants because they depend on the level of your dormitory. However, trust gain via dorm should not be a major priority as it's not a significant amount to begin with. Instead, you can rely on trust farming while playing stages in order to gain better trust. Credits are only 120 less if you use 252, which isn't going to be a big difference when you see what 120 can buy in my store. If you're that concerned about credits, did you know that using your friends' support units every day and making your friends use yours also gets you credits? NANI? There is a common saying that base rotation is horrible on 252 or harder to manage. Some even saying it's harder if you don't have a R6S dorm replacing your control center. This is a horrible myth that needs to be stopped. I'm going to show you my way of rotating operators. Perfect timing, it's time to rotate my base. I've got a few operators who's at 0 morale, so we've got to put them in the dormitory already. Now can a 252 owner achieve easy rotations? As compared to 243, whereby a lot of people tend to log in every 24 hours to change up their base, which is not very efficient by the way, 252 allows you to log in every 12 hours and simply switch half of your base operators into the dormitory. This isn't that much of a hassle because for one, many of you are already logging in at that interval so as to not cap your sanity and put it to the fullest use. At the same time, when you log in at every 12 hours, you would often come into your base to collect its rewards. Hence, the idea of just adding one more rotation to your daily schedule isn't going to be that troublesome. You don't have to make it perfectly 12 hours, you can feel free to rotate your operators even if you're a little bit earlier from the 12-hour interval or even a bit later. Now, will the dormitories be able to fit the number of dead operators that I currently have? If you see the number of dormitory spaces, because I have 4 of it, I can fit a total of 20 operators. Now on the basement 2 and basement 3 of my base, I've got a total of 6 working operators here, let's make it 7 because of the office on the basement 2, and I've also got 6 operators on basement 3. So that is a total of 13 operators that I need to shuffle into the dormitory. So I'm gonna do just that, let me just put all of them into here. So I've placed all the basement 2 and basement 3 operators into the dormitory, and I still got an available dormitory to fit any more extra operators that I need. Then I'm gonna leave my control center and basement 1 alone. Later on in the next 12 hours, these operators that I've placed in the dormitories would have recovered already, and I can feel free to rotate them later on. Then, these ones on the first floor and basement 1 will probably go down. If you count the number of operators I've placed, there's 7 operators on the first floor, and there's also another 7 on the basement 1. So this will make it a total of 14 operators that I need to put in the dormitories. And hence, it's actually not that bad. Again, there's still extra spaces for me to put operators into the dorm. So therefore, this is how you can easily do a 252 rotation. It's not that difficult at all, you'll be rewarded with a lot of great efficiency. Hopefully this convinces you that 252 is a pretty damn good base. This video does not discuss 2 more possible layouts, which is 342 and 153. The first one being a random farm base, and the second one being a whales base. I'll be covering more about these layouts in a far future episode, which will be about advanced base layouts. In summary, if you're using the 333 base or any other bases that you don't really know the reason why you're using it, then please change it to something better so that you can have a nicer time in Arknights. If you're still using 243 and you want to insist on using it because of its fabled aesthetics, or if not you have some form of OCD, then I can't do anything to change your mind. But if you're open to change and willing to try something new, give 252 a shot, and I can assure you that you can have a great improvement in what the base can provide to you. If you're already using 252, well done to you. You can proceed to the next episode, which is going to be talking about operator combos and rotations. That episode is going to be so helpful to everyone because I understand that many people find it confusing to find out what is the best combo to put into your factories or trading posts. Is there a tool that we can use to measure the productivity of the operators better? How do we understand complicated skills like Rosmontes, Ling, Dusk, all these kinds of strange wordings that Arknights has? I'm sure you guys are excited for that, so if not, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.